We're going to be starting off this video with a whole bunch of exciting fight announcements. First up, Islam Makhachev will be fighting Thiago Moises in a 3-round fight for the Fight Night card on July 17. Next up, Darren Till versus Derek Brunson is in the works to be a 5-round main event for the August 14th card. Next up, Paulo Costa versus Cannonier has been confirmed. It will be a 5-round main event for the August 21st card. Johnny Walker versus Thiago Santos is in the works for the card on September 25th. It is unknown as of right now whether it will be a 5 or 3-round fight. Now, moving on, our first story comes from Conor McGregor, who has been crowned the highest paid athlete for this past year by Forbes. Conor McGregor sits at the top with $180 million, beating the likes of Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, and so forth. Lionel Messi sits in second place with $130 million this past year. Now you might be wondering, where did all this money come from? Well, a couple weeks back, Conor and his partners sold the majority of the Proper 12 whiskey brand in a deal worth $600 million. This is what the article said. McGregor sold his Irish whiskey to Proximo Spirits for $150 million profit. And when added to his UFC fight purse and other endorsement deals, Conor finished with a grand total of $180 million, a staggering $50 million more than soccer star Lionel Messi, who came in at number 2. Our next story comes from former UFC champion Luke Rockhold wanting to make a comeback. Speaking on the Real Quick with Mike Swick podcast, Rockhold reveals that several middleweight fighters in the top 10 have turned down a fight against him. Here's what he said.
Yeah, no, I feel good. I'm, I've taken some time off to just get my body right. Had quite a few surgeries and able to navigate the waters and feel good about it, just giving some time to do me, organize life, do business, live. It's hard to live when you fight. Yeah, so, I've gotten that out of my system and I'm starting to get that fire back where I want to come smash some heads. And I think, body feels good. I'm walking around at 205 pounds. Everything's pretty smooth. I just need to find some sucker to take the fight.
So it's going to be 185 only? Is that where you're going to stay?
That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm walking at 205 pounds. So I think for me, that's where I feel good. That's where I feel light. That's where I feel comfortable. And that's where I've done my damage. I won my world titles and I plan on doing it again. I mean, it's really about finding someone who's going to fight.
Yeah.
I need to find a top 10 guy who's ready to sack up and ready to fight. There's already been multiple people in the top 10 making excuses why they don't want to fight me. It's just like who the fuck are you to turn down the fight? Where's your entitlement and what you think you have? My last fight it's against Yoel Romero, missing weight for a world title in Perth 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I've left the rankings, but I'm not really left the rankings. I'm still there, just as much as I want to be. And everyone knows who I am and what I can do. And I think everyone's just making excuses why they don't want to fight me right now. So we've been hunting down the list and trying to find something credible, something fun, something exciting. I'm not just going to go fight anybody. It's like I want something that gets me excited, gets the fans excited, and has a little momentum. Something that makes somewhat of sense.
Our next story comes from Tony Ferguson, who fights Beneil Dariush this weekend at UFC 262. Speaking on the UFC Unfiltered podcast, Tony Ferguson says he dismantled his team from his last fight against Charles Oliveira and formed a new team for this fight in hopes of getting back on the right track. Here's what he said.
When the pandemic hit, I had to take everything my title and put it on the line to get the sports world back on. And that was a big risk that I was willing to do because, it felt like God was testing me. So I answered the phone. And, he never puts enough on our plate. He always puts just enough so we can handle it. And I asked for more. I wanted to make sure that I could take all these punches and demonstrate as a human race that we're going to be able to keep moving forward. And in that Gaethje fight, we prepared for a grappler. And then same thing with the Landon fight and a lot of the other fights. So the way that promotions work and the matchmakers work and how everything goes, it's very tricky. So, we could sit here and dissect it, but the one dimensionality about it is not letting your area surroundings affect you. Now, when my coaches and everybody bailed out and they had to worry about all their other stuff, I had to put a team together. And when I put my team together, I had one person in the back that actually contradicted everything that I said in my camp. So I had to 86 everybody again. And when I put a team together, I went on a 12-fight win streak, but that took a year and a half. And I put a team together in 3 weeks. Now this time, I put together a good team. I got a couple people that are key factors from my 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu, and I got a couple key factors from my college wrestling team, my coach, and even I added in wildcard boxing. I surrounded myself around people who were hungry, who were elite, who were on that level that I am at, but actually doing the same thing that I'm doing at a high level, which is an Olympic mentality. And that's in a lot where you get it in the boxing gym. I would go to these MMA gyms and I would get really lazy because I would pick up bad habits. I would get lazy. I would take a knee inside the gym, or, you know, you walk around scratching balls, you're looking at the TV and you're talking shit about the weekend, or, you know, like all the bullshit. I don't do that. I'm tired of, I don't have to look after anybody anymore. I did that. I'm looking after myself because the last time I did that, I got hit a lot. And I don't like to get hit. I used to not get hit. I started talking to Coach Brock again. And I started talking to Coach Marty Morgan. I started talking to Coach Greg Nelson and Coach Eric Paulson. And these are my coaches. And Coach Rodrigo Comprito, who's my jiu-jitsu coach on the show. And Matt Hughes was actually my coach too. And everybody forgets all that. So I kept in contact with all my coaches, and I'm going to be real. We've been delegating everything that we need to do to make sure that this guy's going to get he's going to get it this weekend.
Our next story comes from Michael Chandler, who fights Charles Oliveira this weekend at UFC 262. Speaking to Ariel Hawani, Chandler says that he is excited and scared to fight Charles Oliveira. Here's what he said.
You can't help but to just love Charles Oliveira's story, honestly. I started fighting in 2009. He's been signed with the UFC since 2010. Man, he was just a young kid from Brazil with a glimmer in his eye and a hope that maybe someday when I get into this sport, I could be a UFC champion. And it has taken him over a decade now to get this UFC title shot. So I by no means think that my road is any better or worse, but it is really cool. It's a tale of two completely different stories. The guy who has cut his teeth and worked extremely hard over the last over a decade inside the UFC to get the title shot, and then the guy who's worked his tail off, had a bunch of highs and lows, and dusted himself off outside the UFC, and then come into the UFC now to get the title shot. So, man, I just think his evolution as a fighter, his striking, he's the most dangerous guy in the world on the ground. Not only does he have the most submission wins in UFC history, but the way in which, the versatility in which he's able to finish fights on the ground in any given moment. You are kidding yourself if you don't think you are in absolute danger at all times when Charles Oliveira is within an arm's reach of you to be able to pick you up, put you down, and roll you up into some kind of crazy submission. So that's what excites me. That's what scares me. That's what keeps me up at night. And that's why I'm going to go out there on Saturday night on my P's and Q's with my best foot forward, and I believe put together a phenomenal performance and game plan to be able to stake my claim as the #1 lightweight in the world. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say this fight scares me a little bit and it excites me.
Our next story comes from Dana White, who says Dustin Poirier made the best decision to fight Conor next instead of taking the title fight. Speaking to BT Sport, Dana White says that Dustin will definitely get a title shot if he beats Conor McGregor at UFC 264. Here's the clip.
No, when these type of fights happen, right? He just comes off this win. He's got the trilogy fight with Conor. If you look at a guy like Dustin Poirier, who's worked hard his whole life, grinded out throughout his career, gets himself into a position, you know, he beats Conor. And the reality is, I mean, if you look, he's the #1 ranked guy in the world, vacant title. These guys will fight for the title. He will get his big fight with McGregor. And if he wins, he'll get a title shot anyway. I think he played that thing perfectly. Listen, I'm all about guys wanting that title and wanting to prove that they're the absolute best in the world. But when I've seen some tragic mistakes. I've seen fighters and their management make bad decisions, and literally, I mean, there's one that is literally the worst I've ever seen. It's tragic, and I beg them not to do it. Someday I'll tell this story publicly, but yeah, not today, unfortunately. But I've seen some big mistakes made in the past, and I think that Dustin Poirier did the absolute right thing.
That about wraps up the video for today. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and if you learned something new. But either way, have a great day, enjoy fight week, and peace.